Namaste and welcome to yet another episode of the Purnayog by me, Shikha podcast. And this season, we have really got into some very interesting conversations. And I'm bringing to you another one today on a topic that is so hot right now, nutrition, right? We all are today looking to lead a healthier lifestyle. Now we are hitting the gym, and I hope it's for most of us, it's about getting into a healthy lifestyle and not just about how we look. And when we hit the gym, we also become extremely conscious about what are we eating, right? And we should be conscious about what are we eating, irrespective of whether we are hitting the gym or not. But I'm glad that more and more people are talking about it today. It's such an important aspect of our physical well-being and such an important aspect of taking care of this body, because it is said that we become what we eat, right? And it's true to a very large extent. So today I have with me Sneha Jain, who is a certified dietitian, and she is a diabetes care specialist. She works out of Bay Area in California. Sneha has been practicing nutrition for a decade. That's 10 long years. And there's so much of experience and things that she's seen. She's also a very dear friend. And I have done these conversations with her before, and they've always been so enriching that I couldn't stop myself from bringing it out here. Sneha is a mom of a 3-year-old son, and he's so adorable that he gets her daffodils, which she did yesterday. And my heart was like, oh my God, this is so sweet. She loves to step outside and she likes going outdoor, being in nature. She also loves to create art, which I think is her way of releasing stress and staying connected to her true self. Welcome, Sneha, and it is such a joy to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It feels really nice to be able to connect with you again on another platform. And I just want to thank you for this opportunity.
Lovely. And so we dive right into it. Sneha, we do want to know what got you into nutrition, what got you into this place and what has been the journey like? I know it's very interesting. So I would love everyone to get to know a little bit more about you.
Mm-hmm. So, I remember as a child always being interested in biology and, food and medicine and just how the human body works. And to be very honest, I did want to become a doctor. But, coming from a traditional Jain Marwadi family, I think at the time my grandfather thought that if you are going to get into higher education and, become a doctor, how are we going to find an appropriate boy for you?
Oh, yeah.
So he thought it might be just better for you to do something, like a bachelor's degree in biology or zoology or something like that. And, he just wanted me to basically stay there where I come from, which is Ratnagiri. And, we've lived together as a joint family, which is why it was so important that I, take into account other people's opinion.
Mhm.
And you're young, you don't know, you just follow what your parents ask you to do.
Mhm.
But I remember having this conversation with my mom, and I said, I do not want to pursue biology or zoology. I really want to go out and explore, being away from Ratnagiri. And at that time, Ratnagiri, by the way, is a very small town. It's known for Alfonso mangoes.
Yes.
But other than that, I've always wanted to step out for higher studies. So I remember one evening I was just sitting with my mom and, drinking chai, and both of us were watching this show called Hello Sakhi,
Mhm.
which was aired on one of the Marathi channels. And Marathi is very commonly spoken in Ratnagiri, which is why we were watching that show. And that show the host was interviewing a dietitian.
Oh,
And so my mom said, look at this. This is so interesting. You would basically be studying the human body, which is what your interest is, and you will be studying different disease condition. But instead of prescribing medications, you would talk to people about food. And I think that this is a great amalgamation of your interests and, wanting to keep it not too out of the reach from my grandfather's perspective. So to me, honestly, it sounded very interesting when I thought that it will be a good way for me to learn about human body biology, keep my interests, but also explore the food part of it as opposed to just the medicine part of it. And I'm so glad I did, because
yes.
now we realize that food is the cornerstone. If we do not lead healthy lifestyles, No matter how many medications we take, it's not going to help us.
Absolutely.
So then, of course, I moved to Bombay College of Home Science, where I had the honor of meeting you
Yes.
and many other wonderful women who I went to, school or college with, and we lived together in a hostel. So I think that was a great experience, just stepping out from your home when you're 17, 18, and trying to, find a life for yourself and getting higher education, meeting more like-minded people, meeting people from all over India. I think that was something I really cherish, because that was a unique experience for me, having come from a small town, never been exposed to, the different cultures, so to speak. In fact, that was the first time I ever came to Bombay.
Oh.
And as they say, city of dreams.
Yes.
So I ended up staying back there, did my graduation, did my master's, and then also found a job there. I was working as a bariatric dietitian. This is 2009, 2010 that I'm speaking about. And, I remember writing articles for Mumbai Mirror, Midday at the time. And I think I was doing pretty well in my career, very content, very satisfied. And then life had other plans. I met my husband on Facebook. We got talking, chatting, we thought we had a liking for each other. And so that ended up getting converted into marriage, of course. And then once I got married, I moved to the United States. And then I wanted to really continue my passion for nutrition. So I enrolled myself at San Jose State, and I got another master's degree in nutrition.
Wow.
And then I explored a host of jobs before I found my passion with diabetes. And I wouldn't go into all the jobs that I've had, but I just want to mention that I have done everything from weight loss to bariatric surgery to heart health to pediatric nutrition to GI health. And then I think when I was exposed to diabetes, I really found passion there, because my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, has diabetes, and I've seen her struggle through the life. And being a South Asian, we are all prone to developing pre-diabetes, insulin-resistant type 2 diabetes. So I felt like diabetes was my calling. And then I further advanced my training in diabetes and became a certified diabetes educator. So the combination of registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator then opened, this whole super specialized field for me that I'm so grateful to be serving.
Yeah. And that's such a wonderful journey. That is so wonderful, and then we always say that we believe that our life is planned, that we can plan it to the T. But, when you stay open and when you have the dreams, and then you just have that one backing, I think for you, your mother, that chat, I think it just opened up so many avenues, makes you feel that you can do it. And it's so amazing. And I'm so glad that girl from that small town had those dreams and the courage to pursue them. I think that is phenomenal, wonderful. All right. So, getting more into, there are so many diets that we hear about. There is keto, and then there is some sort of fasting or the other, and there's some other change in lifestyle, eat for these many hours or eat only this and not that. What do you think about this? Because when we look at it, it's completely different from what we have been eating so far, right? It's just a complete sea change. And it looks to me more like a stopgap kind of a thing that you could do for some time. But can we really sustain this? And is diet supposed to be a fad, or is supposed to be a lifestyle? And then how would that be different? So really a lot of questions in there, I know. But just an overview, I'm wanting to understand as to, is this sustainable, the kind of diets that we're talking about or that Instagram is showing us?
Yeah. Thank you for that question, because again, this is my opportunity to kind of educate people. And thank you for bringing Instagram and all these diets that are there. So if we look at diet as a definition, what is diet? It is basically the amount of food an organism or an animal or a community of people habitually eat. That is the definition of diet. But the wellness community has really changed this definition to something that you go on and something that you get off of. So when I hear people talking about diet, they are often talking about, I have an event to attend, I'm on a diet. I cannot eat that, I am on a diet. I have a wedding to attend, so I am on diet. And typically when I'm hearing people say that they are on a diet, it is with vanity in their mind. I don't really think that they are looking at bodily nourishment. And I think what happens is because they are looking at a short term goal, then they get attracted to all these different diets that are in the wellness industry, like you mentioned,
Mm.
keto or intermittent fasting or Weight Watchers, Atkins and watermelon diet and cabbage soup diet.
Yeah.
And I just see people jumping from one diet to another, one trend to another, and it's so disheartening and sad to see people do that. But they do it because, again, we are humans and
Mm.
we want the results in the shortest way possible.
Yeah.
So we think that if we go on one of these diets, then it's going to help us look a certain way and be a certain way. But what happens is, because these diets, as they are called fad diets, are not sustainable. The reason they are not sustainable is because if you look at them, they either ask you to cut out a food group,
Mhm.
like paleo diet will ask you to cut out fruits and beans and only
Yeah.
have you eat what ancestors ate. But again, who exactly knows what our ancestors ate, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll have keto diet where people will eat high amounts of fat, and then you'll have people who are just following no carbohydrate diet and intermittent fasting. But the reason this is not sustainable is because over a period of time, people do it for a week, 2 weeks, 1 month, let's say 6 months, and then they start to realize this is not sustainable.
Mm.
One of the most common things that I hear from clients who've been on these fat diets is that their social life got affected. They had to seclude themselves, because then when you're out, then you cannot eat certain foods, and you have that added stress of following the rules of your
Mm.
diet and not really being able to be present in the moment and enjoy. I've also heard people say they are low on energy. I've had clients who lost a bunch of hair. I've had clients who've developed other health conditions like
Yeah.
high cholesterol from
Mm.
keto diet, or uric acid and gout and all of those issues.
Mm.
That's the reason I feel that these are not sustainable.
Mm.
And then when we look at lifestyle is different. Lifestyle is basically working on your goal, but slowly and steadily, and negotiating with your healthcare provider on what you can do and what you cannot do. Also, lifestyle is not something you get on and get off of. Once you
Mm.
make that change, you're going to live with it, which is why it is called lifestyle.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when I speak to clients, and they are like, I want to get my blood sugars down, and I've cut out all the carbohydrates, and I no longer eat this and I no longer eat that. I hear them out, but then the only question I ask them is, it's fine if it works for you, but please answer this question to yourself. Are you going to be able to do this lifelong? And if the answer is no, then you will get the results. But the moment you come off of it,
Mhm.
you will either gain your weight back or your blood sugars will go back up again. So it's extremely important for one to choose something that they can sustain for life, something that will allow to look at food as a way of nourishment, not something to be feared of, not something to punish yourself of,
Punish.
which
Yeah.
will allow yourself to have social connections. And we eat food for so many reasons.
Yeah.
Nutrition is definitely the most important reason why we eat food, but then food also brings cultures together, families together. It's such a nice social experience that people should have. So that's my take on fad versus lifestyle, and I am more towards educating my clients on establishing a lifestyle that will allow them to enjoy life you
Yeah.
know
Yeah, I
yeah,
completely resonate with that big time because, and that's a beautiful point that you brought out that it's not something, it's not a short-term thing. There is no shortcuts in life, whether it comes
yeah,
to anything, and that's included in our food and our well-being also. It's a choice that we make to step into something that is sustainable, and you're still allowing yourself to enjoy life. We have a long life, and if we continue to just keep ourselves imprisoned to an idea or a diet or keep jumping one, we don't feel the satisfaction of having done it. It doesn't lead to
yeah,
fulfillment. And most of the time people who are on diet are extremely irritated as well, right? And we see that. And
absolutely, yeah,
because you're not feeling good, the end is
yeah,
that you should feel good, and your
yeah,
emotional well-being, I think, is equally important in keeping you healthy, right? If you're not feeling
yeah,
emotionally good about what you're eating, but you're eating it because someone's told you that, or it's a diet,
yeah,
I don't think it's going to have that kind of a benefit that eating a regular, normal, or a lifestyle kind of change that you could bring about. So that's amazing.
absolutely,
I hope everyone who's listening understands that there is a difference between a fad and a lifestyle, and why a lifestyle is a lifestyle, because it is sustainable and you can do it forever, right? So, Sneha, what kind of people typically come to you? And reason why I'm asking this is we always come to believe when we look outwardly that when you have an issue with your health is when you go to a dietitian, right? Because
Yeah,
diet is
yeah.
about an issue. Is it for common people as well? Do you encourage people to consult someone and get a check done every now and then? What is your
Yeah.
experience when it comes to dealing with people that you deal with?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that question. And it's a great question. And like you said, that people should seek these services before something happens. And that's exactly what I think. Don't wait for you to develop a condition, just try and eat, a good balanced diet from the beginning. So in first place, you do not develop issues, but more often than not, all of the clients that I see have been referred by their primary care physicians or their endocrinologist for an underlying health condition, which could be insulin resistance, it could be PCOS, it could be diabetes. And the interesting part of this is, even people themselves do not know they have these conditions, because I don't know much about, India per se, but I know based on our culture that it's not common for us to visit a doctor for
Uh,
prevention. Like,
no,
at
no.
least in my family, I've never seen, my parents excitedly go to the doctor to get their labs done. We
Yeah,
always wait for some symptoms and then we go get labs done.
yeah.
And it's the same thing what I see in my clients. I've had a patient who's been to a dentist for a dental appointment, and the dentist noticed that there were wounds in the mouth
Oh,
that were not healing. And the
mm,
dentist said, go back to the primary care physician, get your lab work, and then the person gets diagnosed with diabetes.
mm,
Or I meet, girls in their reproductive age trying to get pregnant
mm,
but not conceiving, and then
mm,
they go to their doctor, they get their labs done, only to find out they have PCOS or they have insulin resistance.
mm, mm,
So because my specialization is now in diabetes, I see all diabetes related clients, insulin resistant and PCOS related clients. But again, all of these conditions also coexist with high cholesterol, high triglyceride. So we can club all of these together, and some of these conditions, some of the patients also require to lose weight.
yeah.
So those are the clients that I often end up seeing. But
Mm,
unfortunately, they come to me once they have developed something, as opposed to someone who's just coming to me to ask me, how should I eat more healthfully?
yeah. And I think that is so crucial, especially when it comes to food and lifestyle. I think prevention is always better than, yeah,
Yes.
reaching at a
Cure.
stage of cure. Because
Yeah.
when you're cure stage, then you are going to be bound to not eat things, right? Because they're going to
Yeah.
go all out because we want to get those levels down quickly and because they're
Yeah.
impacting your other stuff. But when you choose it
Yeah.
as a lifestyle, then it's so much more
Yeah.
friendlier. Then you can really work
Yeah.
around stuff. Then
Most
you,
definitely.
yeah, then you can eat that ice cream like maybe once in a blue moon and not feel guilty
Yeah.
about it. But when
Yeah.
your sugar is already very high, nobody's going to tell you
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah.
Your dietitian will have to work on that, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then you feel very restrictive. You feel bad about A, having
Mm,
developed that condition, and
yeah,
B, then you have to be on this strict diet and you start feeling, why do I have to do this? And
yeah,
why the other person doesn't have to do it,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I agree with you that
And it
I
becomes,
hope,
yeah,
yeah,
it becomes like a mental, stress as well. And it's not very good
absolutely.
for anything. Like any kind of
Yeah,
stress is not going to help you get out of the thing. It, in fact, is going
yeah,
to add on to the whole thing.
most definitely. Most definitely.
So, Sneha, I also wanted to, sort of understand from you. You specialize in diabetes, and it's really is now almost like a pandemic. Like everybody has it, right? You talk
Hmm.
to youngsters, they're getting it. Pre-diabetic stages is very, very common. So, why do we get diabetes? And so there are a couple of parts to this question. One is why do we get it? Another is it reversible? Can we reverse it? Or is it manageable? How easy or difficult is it to manage diabetes? I think these three things is something that if you could shed more light on, it'll be amazing for the listeners, especially those
Yeah.
who know someone or are moving through something like this.
Absolutely, absolutely. So thank you again for those questions, and I'm just going to answer them partly, like,
Yeah,
break them down just
yeah,
like you've broken down. So I think the first one was, why do people get
mm,
diabetes,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
So I think that we as a community need to understand that there are different types of diabetes, right? And I often see people get confused between all different kinds of diabetes. So I will just mention the two broad categories of diabetes. One is type 1 diabetes and the other is type 2 diabetes. So let's talk about the type 1 diabetes briefly so that I can put type 2 diabetes more in context for you. So type 1 diabetes is a kind of diabetes wherein your own immune system has attacked the pancreas to a point where the pancreas are no longer making insulin. So from the time it's diagnosed, which is usually anywhere from birth to 35 years of age, not saying it doesn't get diagnosed in adulthood, but most likely will get diagnosed in the younger population. And from the time it's diagnosed, you have to be in insulin. Your body's just not making any insulin. So you always remain on insulin, and there is a huge genetic component. Like mostly you will find that type 1 diabetes is purely genetic in nature, very little to do with lifestyle, more to do with the autoimmune response of your body. So that's type 1. Type 2, on the other hand, is a combination of genetic and lifestyle factors. And when we talk about lifestyle factors, that's where the diet and, exercise and everything come into play. Type 2 diabetes is also called as the adult onset diabetes because you'll definitely see it as people grow older, they develop these conditions. Now, in the past, the goal was to screen anybody with 45 years of age or above for type 2 diabetes. But now, like you mentioned, more and more younger population is being diagnosed with it. So they've dropped the screening criteria to 35 years of age. And some doctors will also just screen you if you have family history of diabetes. And family history, I mean, your grandparents, maternal or paternal, or your siblings or your own parents. If they have diabetes, then you will get screened for diabetes as well. A lot of times, again, I find that type 2 diabetes is also misunderstood, and people say, oh, this one got diabetes because look at the diet and he ate too much sugar. Now, I just want to say nobody eats sugar to the point where they develop diabetes, but it's not directly causing diabetes. But when we eat a high carbohydrate, imbalanced, high sugar diet over a period of time, the extra calorie intake happens. And when we eat extra calories, we have a fat deposition because the calories have nowhere to go, especially when we lead sedentary lifestyle in today's day and age. And so the body starts storing it. And when the body fat percentage goes up, most hormones in your body don't work properly. So that brings me to the type 2 diabetes and how different it is from type 1 diabetes is that your body is producing insulin. Your pancreas are making insulin, but your body is unable to utilize it. Like the cells are not responding to it the way it should. And insulin typically should open up your cell and allow this energy that you've eaten from the food to enter into the cells so that the cells can function. But this function is not happening, as a result of which the blood sugars stay in your blood and cause all sorts of complications. And by improving your lifestyle, you can, manage diabetes very well, especially the type 2 diabetes responds very well to lifestyle change. Some people will need medication, and depending on the length of your diabetes, you might be managed only with diet and lifestyle, or you may need one medication, or you may need multiple medication. It will all depend on your overall history, your age, how much effort you've been able to put in, and how much your body is responding to all of these different treatment modalities that you're using.
Great.
So that is about the diabetes, and I just wanted to take a pause here and ask if there's anything between the various types of diabetes that you wanted to ask me.
No, I think that's great. That's what we wanted to know that there are two types. One is, of course, something that you, like you said, you could have from birth, and there is really not much that can be done about it because it's there and you be on insulin and it's just genetics. And while there is a second one, which could be based on lifestyle and maybe genetics also has a role to play in it, but that's manageable. So does that mean that we cannot reverse diabetes, right? Completely?
Yeah, because both of these have genetic components to it. And the way diabetes progresses, it's a progressive disease, which means you might have normal blood sugars for long periods of time, and then all of a sudden some stressor in your life will exacerbate those blood sugars for you again. It could be losing a family member, it could be going through life-changing experience like losing a job or undergoing divorce, and all of these things place large stress on our body, even though you might not feel stressed.
Yeah.
And during that time, I see that those blood sugars worsen for people, even those who've had good blood sugar control. And the reason I don't like the term reversal is because when we talk about reversal, we are almost telling people that you can cure it.
Yeah.
But you cannot. There is no cure for diabetes. You can manage it, but you cannot cure it.
Yeah.
Can your blood sugar be normalized? Yes. There are patients, who have A1C well controlled below 6.5% without medication for 3 months, who will then be diagnosed with diabetes in remission.
Okay.
But reversal is more of a gimmicky word to get people to buy their meal plans, their programs. So I just want to urge your listeners and anyone else who's listening to this podcast to not fall for the word reversal. It sounds good, right? Whenever someone is promising you that will reverse your diabetes, it sounds very good, and you want to go there and you want to get rid of this part of your life forever. But no, the pancreatic dysfunction stays with you. The gene is always there. And then even if you're in remission, things can trigger that gene and your diabetes can come back, which is why I like the word remission over reversal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad that you brought that out. And, to everybody who's listening, and diet is such a crucial part, but that's where the entire stress management also comes in play, right? You need to actively be able to identify what is it that causes you stress, and how can you really work around it to build your resiliency to stress. Stress is always going to be there, but your ability to bounce back from it so that it doesn't have these repercussions on something which is already triggered in your body. So you want to be able to take care of yourself, and that's a separate conversation altogether on managing stress, and we talk about it often on this podcast, but it's amazing that you brought that out. See, I also wanted to, because we're on this topic, if you could give us some of the early signs of having developed diabetes, if you could just maybe let us know some things that we could keep in mind, people could keep in mind and be aware to get their blood sugar tested.
Yeah. So if you find that your hunger is insatiable, if you are trying genuinely to lose weight, but the weight is not changing, if you have thinning of hair, if you have hair around, your facial region, your mouth, your chin, if you have dark patches of skin on your neck, in your underarms, if you're peeing a lot at night, I think all of these symptoms should warrant doctor visit, and you should get your checkup done to see if there is anything that might be the root cause of why you're getting these symptoms. Please don't ignore them. Your body is always talking to you, so I think it's important that we listen.
That is so helpful. I think most of us don't know about that, and most of us come to know about diabetes when it's already at a stage where it's off the charts, when the blood sugar levels are already off the chart and you find something extreme happening, or you go to the doctor for something and you find out, oh my God, I have diabetes. So it's so important to know. And I hope everyone who's listening is jotting that down or keeping that in their mind so that, they can look at that. So coming back,
sorry to interrupt,
no
but I just wanted to add, I said weight gain, but unintentional weight loss is also one of the most important signs of diabetes, because people lose weight like 10 and 20 pounds in like 2-3 months. There's definitely something going on. Get your blood sugar checked. And that happens because your body is not able to use the sugar. So it starts breaking your muscle mass. And that is why you lose weight. So the weight loss seems very flattering for people, but not all weight loss is good. So if you're losing too much weight, also go to the doctor. If you're gaining weight despite efforts at losing weight, also go to the doctor.
Yeah, I think that's very important, because I see a lot of people who are into, and eventually they do come up with realizing that they've had diabetes, but there's an immense weight loss, so they're feeling very happy about it, because it's a weight that they've been trying to lose. And I have suggested to 1 or 2 people to go and get it checked with a doctor, and then they found to have diabetes. So I think another very crucial point. You need to feel energy is everything that is, even if you are a few pounds extra, if you feel energetic, your body's telling you, I feel good. And that's all that your body needs to tell you. Great.
Absolutely.
So from weight loss and weight gain, coming on to diets again. One question that I really wanted to ask you, are diets gender specific? Does gender play an important role in diet for a man or a woman or a girl or a boy?
Yes and no. There is not a straightforward question here, but what I will say is that, diets are based on your calorie and protein needs,
Mhm.
which will vary depending on which life stage you are in. Like, for example, in the first year of your life, you need most calories. And then as you grow older, you need less and less calories. And then again, children grow through growth spurts.
Hmm.
So when they're in elementary, middle school, teenage, their calorie requirements are high until they become an adult. And then your body is more so in a maintenance phase. So then your
Hmm.
calorie needs, kind of slow down.
Yeah.
And for females also, the calorie needs are different based on your age, how much physical activity you're doing, and what life cycle you are in.
Hmm.
Whether you are a teenage girl playing sports, whether you are a reproductive age woman trying to get pregnant,
Hmm.
whether you've given birth, whether you are lactating, all of these things will change your calorie and protein and nutrient needs.
Yeah.
And need them. We need to know what these needs are
Hmm.
as we go through the life cycle.
Yeah. And I think I wanted to bring this question out primarily because we think that, we are four people living in a house, all four of us need to eat the same food. While that might be different because if there's a child and if there's a teenager and if there's someone
Yeah.
who is, senior citizen, the food
Yeah.
intake sort of differs. But we tend to
Yes.
always think that, everybody should be eating around the same kind of food, same amount of food, rather, more importantly
Yeah.
than kind. And I
Yeah.
think I just wanted to bring that out for that particular
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. So females typically will need less calorie than the male counterpart for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Okay. All right. Okay. So coming on to something interesting, something that people can really, relate to. I wanted to understand if you could give us 5 major mistakes or, goof ups that we do in our diets in the modern age that we live in. If you could,
Yeah.
just point that out for us so that we know
Yeah.
what are the common places where we tend to go off the radar, so as to say.
Yeah, I wouldn't say mistakes, because then I'm judging people for their diets. And,
Yeah.
I don't want to be doing that, because I always say that, nutrition is a privilege. There are people who cannot have access to high quality ingredients and access to fresh fruits and vegetables for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It could be, financial region, it could be, where they live in their geographic location, so on and so forth. But I will say that the clients who come to me, I see a common theme. One of the themes that I see is not enough intake of fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
For some reason, they share with me what they're eating. I find that they are commonly not eating enough fruits and vegetables. Secondly, I see that the protein is lacking, and especially in Indian vegetarian diet,
Yeah.
because again, we tend to think that dal is giving us protein, but it's not really meeting your protein needs. Not to say that Indian diet cannot give you adequate protein. I am a very much a pro when it comes to eating cultural and traditional foods.
Yeah.
So it can be, sufficient for you, but you need to plan carefully and you need to consciously include protein at every meals. So that's the second thing that I see, commonly lacking in people diet. And then fiber, of course. So, we need to eat more whole foods. We need to eat more vegetables, fruits, whole grains. But because of our lifestyles, we tend to eat more of convenience and packaged foods, which can be often lower in fiber, higher in sodium, so on and so forth. So that would be the third thing I'll say, low fiber. And then I see, again, I don't want to blame people for this, but I see a very large reliance on restaurant foods, packaged foods, convenient foods. Now, not all convenient foods are bad. Like, for example, I share with my clients that frozen fruit is great for you. Frozen vegetables are good for you if you don't have access to fresh, because some of the geographic locations might not have the luxury of fresh fruits and vegetables every day. But what I'm talking about is the ultra processed foods. And this is a separate category. These are the foods which are hyper palatable, very high in salt, very high in sugar. And then because the kind of environments we live in, there is food everywhere, right? You go to work, there is food, there's somebody's birthday, you go to the break room, somebody's bought some cookies, and then evenings we go out to dinners and drinks, and then weekends we have more social
activities,
gatherings to attend. And I feel like growing up, at least I know in growing up in Ratnagiri, our food outings were limited to maybe once or twice a month at a
Yeah,
restaurant,
exactly. Yeah.
and even if we had like festivities, all of the goods were homemade,
Homemade.
by my grandmother or my mother.
Yeah.
So I think that would be the fourth thing, a lot of ultra processed food that
Hmm.
people rely on. And the fifth one, I wouldn't say that this is food related, but I think people don't move their bodies enough.
Yeah.
Again, it's not individually that they don't want to do it, but our life has become such that unless we consciously plan for it, and unless we decide that this is something I have to do, you
Mhm.
can be sitting on your computer all day
All day
long
long.
without realizing that you
Yeah.
haven't moved your body.
Absolutely. And so agree to all of these things. And it is so important to be aware. Awareness is what is key. And we need good nutrition. We need to move our bodies. And the thing is that we've come to believe that these are just things that you do. Like these are extracurricular activities that you do, but they are really the foundation of our being.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter. And when we take care of our food, when we're feeling good on energy, when we're feeling good in the body, we've moved it, you see the things that take you an hour to do would take you probably 30 minutes. That's how sharp your brain is. That's how much blood you've given your body. That's how well your cells are working. You're feeling nourished, you're feeling good. Your productivity goes up. And so
Absolutely.
this is actually adding on to your productivity. So if you're not doing it and feeling lethargic and not feeling energetic enough, it's not going to get you anywhere, unless the satisfaction is to do an X number of hours in front of the computer, which I don't think is a measure of productivity. It should never be, right?
Yeah.
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 Great, Sneha. It was amazing talking to you. And that
Thank
was
you.
all that I wanted to ask you. If there's something that you want to add and, leave us all with, please go ahead. It's been so informative.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to say that don't look for more information. The information is already there. Just
Yeah.
build up the confidence to put all of this knowledge and information that you have into action.
Yeah.
Unless you take action, nothing is going to happen. You can spend hours on Instagram, Google, and TikTok looking for all kind of diets, all kind of biohacks. But like Shikha mentioned, in the beginning, that there is no shortcut
Yeah.
and there are no hacks. You have to put
Yeah.
in the hard work, and it all boils down to your foundation, which is sleep, good food, movement, maybe
Hydration. Yeah.
stress management,
Yes,
hydration, time
absolutely.
for hobby and
Yeah.
fulfillment, because
Yeah.
health is not just the number on the scale,
Hmm.
but it's your mind, body, and soul connection. And it's
Yeah.
high time that we zoom out and take out the focus just from the number on the scale to our overall health. I think
Wonderful.
that would be it.
Yeah, and that really sums it all up. So much information. Like we say, all the things that we get on WhatsApp and Instagram, if we follow like 10% of it,
Yeah,
we would
absolutely.
consciously thinking that the 10% is the good stuff that we have picked up, our life would
Yes,
be different. We would be leading
totally.
such fulfilled lives. So beautiful, Sneha.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for doing this. And to everybody listening, we do these things because we really want to bring in the thought process. Beyond this, every action that's going to be taken is to be taken by you. In case you need any support, Sneha is available. I'm going to share all her coordinates. You can follow her on Instagram. She has one of the most amazing accounts when it comes to recipes, and someone like me who's not so much into cooking still gets inspired because they're simple and they're healthy and they're nourishing and they're doable, right? So she is known as the vegetarian dietitian, right? If I've not got it
Yeah,
wrong. And
yeah,
and
yeah.
so a lot of inspiration for vegetarians like me to get some protein and good food into our systems. Thank you so much, Sneha, for doing this.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. It was a joy answering all the questions and just having this very candid conversation. I mean, Instagram is great and there's so much that you want to say, but
yeah,
you have to restrict yourself to the reel size and the
yeah,
minutes. And sometimes you cannot get all the information out
yes,
there, right?
yes,
So thank you for giving me this opportunity to be on your podcast and have this heart to heart conversation. Thank
yes.
you.
And I'm so glad your passion always shines through. It
Thank
shows in
you.
the twinkle in your eyes how much
Thank
this
you.
means to you. And to everybody listening, take care of yourselves. Like I always say, I wish you well being. And through that, everything is possible. Lead a fulfilling life. Take care of yourselves. Not because you have to, but because you deserve. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.